2, 1. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Lesson on Coding podcast. My name is Ryan Lesson, and boy, do we have a great episode for you today. This is our second episode, and just a few things I want to touch on real quick. I know I don't have my high school car wash charity sign with me today. I didn't bring it today, and I was trying to get a more professional graphic for this. Unfortunately, I didn't get it done in time. The graphic, I didn't get the graphic till yesterday, so I couldn't really get it printed out. But that'll be coming soon, so don't worry. We will be looking a lot more professional very, very soon. So enough chit-chat. Without any further ado, today's guest, I have Zama Mohammed. Zama's done some very cool stuff, so please welcome Zama.
Hi, welcome.
How you doing, man?
Thanks for inviting me.
Dude, thanks for coming on. Yeah. Make sure you get that mic right next to you.
I'm really excited to be on this show.
Yeah, dude. I'm so excited that you wanted to come on. So Zama, if you guys don't know, has done a lot of, I guess you do a lot of teaching, a lot of open source, and you're very active within the developer community just in general.
Right. Yeah, I love doing that. Contributing to the community while working on stuff is really exciting. And basically you learn a lot. And, you get to things where you never did. Like you normally just do website development, but once you go into open source, you go into different tools and, get into more things, which develops you more, which is exciting. And the technology, web technology, is really exciting. And I work on Angular and React, and both are the frameworks which are booming. And
that's for sure, yeah.
Right. And both are taking the web forward, which is really exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. So before we get started on who you are, because we all want to know who you are, how you got started, I want to ask you this. So I made a video, I don't know if you've watched it. It's called How to Keep Coding Awesome When Your Project is, well, we're not going to, swear on this channel when it's poop, we'll just say. And on it, I go over, you could contribute to, if you're working on a project that's stale, there's tons of projects out there that want you to, commit, make pull requests for and help improve them. So I saw you've done one with Cisco, correct?
Right.
Yes. Tell me about, how you found that and how you kind of started contributing to that on your own.
Right. So at Cisco, we were using Angular 1, which you probably...
Which one?
Angular JS 1.4.
Yeah, but 1.4.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
So we were using Angular JS, so we were using forms a lot. And so we use something called Angular Formally.
Yeah.
And so that is basically, if you don't want to create HTML and, write JavaScript along with it, a ton of HTML that comes along with the forms. So basically use Angular Formally, which solves that problem. This project was created by Kenzie Dodds, who is really famous in JavaScript community. So we use that. And then at Cisco, we also started to create another project using Angular 2, basically.
Yeah.
So it was in release candidate and beta versions, and we started developing at Cisco. And I really wanted Angular Formally to be also in Angular community, like Angular 2 community.
Yeah.
So from there, since Kenzie Dodds was no more contributing to Angular Formally because he was hired by PayPal for a React project, so he completely moved into React community. So there was no one that was actually wanting to there were people who wanted to start, but no one was actually
taking the initiative to do it, right?
Taking the initiative to work on it.
Because Angular 1 was not, it didn't have the same kind of flair as React did. Angular 1, people were it works, but there's so many pitfalls to it. You got those, those at bindings, you had to use all those different things. I mean, I was on a project recently on 1.5, and it was trying to be 2, but, you're pulling your hair out at some of the things, the pitfalls with it.
Right. So from there, so when Angular was in beta, long back, 3 years ago, I started this project. And so basically, I tried to keep the same API so that any forms that were developed for Angular 1 could be used in Angular 2 as well, just using the same API. So they don't have to manually create all those forms again, because if you look at Angular 1 forms, they are completely different from Angular 2.
Absolutely
different.
So much more control, yeah.
So I mean, Angular 2 is really great and really exciting. Like the future of it, like the new exciting things that are gonna come in Angular version 8 and 9 are really exciting.
And 2 is exactly what Angular needed, that update, because it was losing luster. I mean, it really was. I mean, 2 really brought it into being, okay, this is one of the top frameworks to be using with
Right.
JavaScript to create, applications. So I want to get into more formally,
Right.
because you've done a lot with that, and that is extremely popular. And we'll come right back to that. But we want to, I've asked, when my brother came out, we asked him how we got started, and we really want to know how you got started. So when did you first start coding? Like, where were you? What inspired you to want to get into this? And then what kind of, if you could give me like a brief summary of how you went from not knowing any code to where you are now.
So in my formal education, I started my bachelor's in India, in my back home, and I started my ID, which is information technology, which is almost similar to computer science, by the way. So in that, from the first year itself, we had courses on Java and stuff, C sharp, not C sharp, C, C++.
Oh, yes.
So I had done a lot of programming, but nothing was interesting to me, like more than how creative work was. So I really dabbed into like design work, into video editing, design, and Photoshop, and even web development using. Do you know Dreamweaver?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, so it was a product from Adobe.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting because at that time it was just drag and drop to build a website. But the problem was it was so slow, and I mean, but it was really exciting for like a lot of web developers used to use that tool. But now with with the tools like Sublime Text, VS Code, and all those, you don't even hear about it, right? But that's still existing. So I really use those tools. I created websites for volunteer work, for just the community and for my college work. So I used to create a I created a website for the my class, and I put all the notes and all the textbooks information and all that on it, and it was really helpful for my friends and
Sounds like
everyone.
kind of like a cheat sheet, though. Like, whoever had access to your website could look at everything, They
Yeah.
didn't need to take any notes in class, huh?
So I started that long back. So and then with the community work, I used to like create intro videos for conferences or college meetings and all that things. So college events. So basically, I used to do that. So that was really interesting. But at one point, I was like, "Is this a career move? Like, is this something that can be turned into a career?" Because at that point, like just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript wasn't looked at as a career option. Like,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
so the thing was, I was looking into other options, and one of the options was networking. So my father used to work in Saudi. So there was one option that I could go back to Saudi and work on networking. And I started my CCNA, which is like a Cisco Certified Network Administration. So I started doing that. I took certification in that. But at one point, I was like, I can't stare at the black screen my whole life. I was like, I can't do that. So I had this privilege. My parents did, asked me to go for masters, go to America and try to see what you can do there. So I went here. I came here, and I tried to like learn networking as well as software development alongside. So I was doing both. So my majors is in networking and computer science, software development
Oh, very cool,
for
yeah.
my masters. So when I came here, I didn't stop coding. So I was doing freelancing work. I was doing volunteering work for the community.
Can I ask you something real quick? So when you came here and you're working on your master's, where were you getting freelance work from?
So
Was it from the university?
from the community.
Yeah,
So I used to go to a mosque. So and they needed a website. So I was like, I can do it. I mean, it's not a big deal for me. So I did that work for them. And then from there, I got some other links that they wanted.
Yeah, and just kept building a network.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
so that happened, and after 1 year, I was like, I should look at professional work. Like during my masters, I started looking for jobs, and then I got a contracting company that could help me, and they were trying for it, and I had to do a lot of patience because they were trying to place me in Java roles because that's a very lucrative, you know, career option at that time. So, but then I got an interview with AT&T, and even though it was like a back-end interview, they were more interested for me to be in a front-end role.
Oh yeah. And so when was that? When did you first start at AT&T?
2012.
2012. Gotcha.
Right. So, and at that time, they didn't have a lot of different, frameworks at that time. I mean, there were frameworks coming out at that time, like AngularJS was just started. Like it wasn't that famous. Backbone wasn't famous, and so I started there with just jQuery, HTML, CSS, and then from there went out to use Backbone, Angular, and then all the different frameworks that we have today.
Very cool. So yeah, big shout out to John Ressig. That's how I pronounce his name? The guy who created jQuery?
I have no idea.
John Ressig, yeah. He wrote a great article about coding every day, which I loved. But yeah, he was the one who created it. So yeah. So, but it's cool that, with jQuery, did that really help you fall more in love with JavaScript? Because using plain old JavaScript to kind of do things could be,
True.
It's not like it's tedious. It feels more like, it doesn't flow as smoothly, I guess is a good way to say it. So
the challenge today is for the community, for a beginner who wants to start, is how should he go into web development? So he either has the option of choosing Angular, Vue, or React, right? And a person, once he goes into Angular directly, he misses out on a lot of things. So he misses out on basics of JavaScript, why jQuery was existing and how it makes the API easier, and how did the web evolve. We had handlebars in between. Why was it being used?
Yeah.
Why was that templating engine being used and all that? So it's really important. What I should be thankful for that I got an exposure of Backbone and Angular as well as jQuery at AT&T. We basically, I don't I bash AT&T a lot because I worked on 2 different pages at AT&T. I started with jQuery and then moved that to Backbone, then removed the whole jQuery, and then the same 2 pages I did it in Backbone, and then the same 2 pages I built it in Angular, and then the whole project was not even into production, which was really sad. And then I had to contribute to other teams over there, which was really exciting. And I did a lot of work on performance, security, and accessibility, which was really exciting for me. And
awesome,
even though I don't like the project that they were doing, but what I love was the innovations and the things that enterprise has to take care for building an application, which was really exciting. And I learned a lot from there.
Yeah.
And then from there, I moved on to Sabre Airlines, and then Cisco, and then Texanet right now.
Awesome.
So I'm a software architect right now, which is amazing position here. So yeah.
So yeah, Zama has been working a lot on the front end. He's turning into a front end master's. I mean, he's done lectures at our company on React, and I do not miss them. They have helped me so much, and it actually helped me, a year and a half ago, I didn't do any React. I was only using Angular. And you're right, you miss out on so much on learning JavaScript. So now, I deep dove into more React, I deep dove into other frameworks, and what's probably is deep diving into JavaScript and see how it actually works. So yeah, so again, I talked to you about this before, but I just wanted to touch on this. I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn, from people, from other developers coming up, who may be international, who aren't citizens, and they ask me hey, can you help me find a job? And unfortunately, most recruiters I talk with, they're like, oh, we can't give visa sponsorship. So I'm like, I can't really answer that for them. I can't really give them advice. So I was hoping, if you don't mind touching on for a little bit, and you said the rules have changed a lot, but how did you overcome that? And I mean, right now you're excelling.
So at my time, I had this opportunity to work on a lot of different projects, like freelancing projects, and I had a chance to build on that, right? So that is really important. That is something that a lot of people are missing. The first thing that you should first look at is, what are you passionate about? Are you really passionate about that particular piece of technology? Right? If a person who is doing mechanical and if he is interested into doing software development, is he really going to be really excited and passionate about front end development is the question. And so the first thing that a person should recognize and try to think about is whether that role is suited for him, and if it's going to help him. And then after recognizing that, suppose he chooses web development, right? So he has to go ahead and try to build his, go and look into research something about it. Go and look at and build the skills around it. So he has to go and do a market research about what's the roles out there. Like
You need to see what's trending for
what's
sure.
trending.
Yeah.
That's important, and you can't just rely on someone else like who were like seniors and and try to ask them what you did, because a lot of things are changing day by day and every year, and you have to be like to look at what exactly is going on right now. So he should go and do some market research and see what junior development positions look like. I mean, I don't want people to like look for senior positions right away. Like a lot of students who just completed masters, like especially
They're looking for those high-paying jobs. They're like,
High-paying
I should
jobs.
get that, but a
Right.
lot. But here's the thing: you had freelance work. A lot of them have no freelance work outside of what
Right.
they've been doing for their masters.
True. So once he builds that skills, like he has to be really good at the basics of what he is going for. Like it could be like machine learning, data science, or anything, but he has to know the basics and then build on some frameworks. So if he's doing data science, then he might go for Python, or there's a language called R. So there are two options. So he has to choose what he has to be good at. Similarly, in our community, it could be Angular or React, right? So they have to choose which stream they want to choose and get into a depth, but they don't have to get into depth a lot, but they also have to cover the breadth and depth. So they have to measure what they want to become, and then measure the depth and breadth that they want to cover, and then get skills around it.
Yes.
So that's the thing that I want them to do. And then the other things that they can do is, for sure, they can do community work. They can do non-profit work or anything.
There's so many things out there that want you to collaborate. There's so many. I mean,
right. And you don't have to like, if you don't get it, it's not a problem. You can have your own project. It doesn't have to be a great startup or anything. Just go ahead and clone something. Like if you see Airbnb to be interesting, you can just create your own website, and you don't even have to like go and publish it. You just have to build on it and have your GitHub profile up and put your content on it. Do some great work on GitHub. If you're on software development, if you're on something else, then you might want to, like, if you're data science, then you might want to be good at Kaggle and other things. So look at that and try to look at the positions and the available job positions, and try to build yourself like on that. Like if you can build on that, it will be really valuable for the people who are hiring. So it's the same things that goes out with someone like you, like who are not non-citizens of US. So it's the same thing, except the fact that some companies do look out for visa authorizations and stuff. So the important point that comes here is you should have profiles on LinkedIn and all the different job profiles out there, like hired, veterinary, and all that different things. But once you are looking for a job, you also have to make sure that whether that company also does visa authorizations or not.
Yes.
So you can go online, and there are websites out there where you can go and search for if the company does visa authorizations, for how many visa authorizations did they did last year or before that. So you have that history for each company. So you can look at that. And if they are doing H1 filings, then you can be sure that, okay, this company is good. The next thing that you should do is find the positions on LinkedIn or whatever the profiles that you want to. And on LinkedIn, the good thing is you can find connections.
Oh, yeah. That's so many connections. It's a very strong developer community on LinkedIn.
True. So you need to find all the different people that's working in that particular company, and try to see if someone you can hit someone in a senior management role or anyone who can refer you. Referrals are really important, and I really used a lot of referrals in my career. Once I was moving from AT&T to Cisco, I used the connections that I had from AT&T. So basically, I had a lot of people working from TechZenet, which is my current company. So I had that connections. Those were working at Cisco, and they really referred me there. So referrals are really important. So for junior developers or freshers, it's really important to have that.
Oh yeah,
connection and
absolutely. I
referrals.
mean, it's definitely the skills. That's what people are looking for. They're looking for those skills that translate. They're looking for people who are working on the new things that people want to try. And I definitely agree. And JavaScript, honestly, from people I heard, like, for example, Kyle Simpson, he loves to say that JavaScript is something you should always bet on, and I agree. So thanks for helping us out with that. Thanks for, kind of enlightening me, more on what's going on. So I guess now what I want to do is I want to move on to you. I want to move on to your projects, and I want to move on to Formally. So I remember some of the stats. I told you yesterday I was trying to figure out how many people cloned it, but unfortunately you can't see that. Formally has over 750 stars or favorites on GitHub, and it has over 150 forks, and it has 1,000 commits to it. So this is a very worked on project. If you don't mind briefly kind of just going into what it does and for the average person and why is it so effective and why the structure of using it is better than what's conventionally used within the framework.
Correct. So another stat that you probably forgot is the NPM downloads, which you can actually see. It's more than 13,000, which is really good for a project. So a lot of Angular projects are using it, and it's really exciting. So the main reason what happens is a company that has like AT&T, right? Like they have so many pages with forms, and if you want to update, have accessibility on your forms, you need to go ahead and change all the different forms on your. We had 100 developers working on that AT&T project, so that was a huge project. So you can think about how many different
different types of forms, different setups. I mean, it's a headache. Just think about it. You need a standardized way.
Right. So there was so what happens is a lot if you're writing HTML so many times, you need to go and update each and every place. So what Formally does is it basically removes that for you. So what you will have is you will be creating a type and then associate a component with it. So basically, once you change that component, it's going to update in all the different forms that you have. So that consistency is there. The simplicity is just it's a JSON form, right? And then you have things like suppose you have a company where you want to create a form. You want someone else to create a form. You want it to be dynamically updated. You want this form to come from the backend. So you want your business to just go ahead and drag and drop a form field, and then it gets updated on the website.
Oh yes.
So what you can do is you can create an application where you drag and drop and create a JSON format of it, and then send it to the client side, and then that updates the form. So that's really that's where a lot of projects are using it currently.
Yes, and it's amazing. I mean, I've used it personally, and it's very cool. And honestly, how you got into that's great. But I want to now talk about the most exciting thing that you're telling me you're working on, your book that I'm very excited to read myself. I don't read too many books, but trust me, I'm definitely going to dive into your book. So it's called Angular Projects. And why don't you, just what made you want to write that? And just tell me kind of what more, and it's about Angular Projects, but tell me, a little bit more in depth about it.
The way I got into this was, again, LinkedIn is really important. You
hear that? It's all about your network. Like Zama said, there's so many ways to build your portfolio as a developer. Everyone's looking for you or wanting you to come collaborate in one way or another. It's key. And I mean, look how much it's helped you. I mean,
right.
But go ahead. Sorry, about that.
So I got a message from one of the person who worked at Pact Publishing. So he messaged me and said, "Are you interested in writing that book?" And I was like, "Do I have time for it?" And then I said, "It's gonna help me in my career, so let me think. Let me put." So he requested me to put out a layout of all the things that I can have that in that book, and I pitched my book, and it was accepted, so which was really exciting. And I have like 11 chapters on it in it. I take from the whole setup to basic introduction to how a person who is beginning into Angular development can create an application, to a server rendered application, to a progressive web app, to a monorepo app, and like how to create your own library, and a lot of testing utilities and stuff in it. So it's really exciting. Like the book is like really going good, and I'm really learning a lot, and taking time out of my work and doing it, which is really good.
But even if you, like you say, you're taking time out of your work, you're learning here. And the good thing about programming is as long as you're coding, you're learning. Like it doesn't matter if it's for your main job, you're always learning. So, and even if it's something you've done before, redoing it and keep doing it over and over again really builds that mastery. So it's awesome that you got to do that. So I got to ask, how long are you, on, like how much progress have you made on this book? Like when do you have like a release date? Like what's going on with it?
I'm probably going to finish it by April end, and then probably in May they are going to like do the whole proofreading and stuff faster, and then probably by May or June.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I really look forward to it.
So around that time, I'm also going to be a father, which is really exciting.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations,
you.
man. Wow, you got a lot coming up, man. I hope you're ready for that.
Yeah.
Very, very exciting, man. Wow, congratulations. All right, well, I want to get to one more thing before we go. And my mic's kind of falling. There we go. Let's see if I can get this perfect. Okay, so I wanted to talk about one more thing with you before, we get out of here. And that's, I wanted to talk about trends with you. We talked about trends before, and that you should always look what the new trends are, always look what companies are starting to want, because eventually those could become exactly what everyone's hiring for.
Right.
So what could you say currently, let's say in the next 5 years, would be the number one thing that people are looking for? To hire, what's going to be the hot thing?
So the current thing that is hot in market is data science for sure. It's something that I'm also really interested in. So I also try to learn something around it, and I try to go into it. But I'm actually really excited about something called TensorFlow.js. So JavaScript has things. So TensorFlow basically is a Python library for doing machine learning on. So it's basically done on server side. So what TensorFlow.js does is bring that API into browser, which is really exciting. JavaScript community, like as a whole, not only just the web frameworks like Angular, React, or others are taking it forward, but things like TensorFlow.js is really exciting. That's making it really great. And the things that I'm really excited about Angular, let me go with both frameworks. I'm really excited about Angular in two ways. Is that basically it now allows you to create an Angular component and convert that into a web component, which is really exciting. And the other thing that it does is you can have Angular component and actually do a tree shaking and create your application, reduce your application.
Yeah, it just makes it so much faster.
So it's called Angular Ivy, which is going to be released, in Angular 8. But for Angular 9, it should be by default
standard.
In all that,
perfect.
Which is really great. And again, React community is great too. Like the whole JavaScript community as a whole is great. And React has, they brought up hooks and stuff, which is really exciting to see the way that the innovations are happening around our technology.
Definitely. Well, Zama, again, I really appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, guys, that's it. That completes our episode. Be sure to be on the lookout for Zama's book, Angular Projects, dropping in May. And again, you can follow me on Instagram at Lesson on Coding and YouTube as well at Lesson on Coding. Also, both these podcasts will be released on all major podcasting sites like iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Probably tonight, I would say. Yeah, so probably tonight. So be on the lookout for that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I have to get it on there, man. The thing is, I was going to do the RSS feed, and I was going to code the whole XML script myself and host it myself, and I'm like, nah, I'm just going to let them do it. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, take care.